Good evening, Sabbath Rest Book Talkers. My name is Erin McCole Cupp. I'm one of your hostesses with the mostesses here at Sabbath Rest Book Talk, where fiction is good for you, where we talk about all the good things that fiction does for us in our life. It gives us something to think about, something to feel, and another good reason to be human, because we're the only ones that have fiction. Our theme this month is heroism, and I'm really excited to introduce our usual suspects of hostesses, but we also have a very special guest who is able to be here for the whole night. And I'm going to save the best for last. No offense to Carolyn, no offense to Rebecca, but Carolyn, why don't you go ahead and say hi and introduce yourself to our Sabbath Rest Book Talkers this evening.
Yes, hello. I'm Carolyn Astfalk. I'm in Hershey, Pennsylvania, and I am the author of several inspirational contemporary romances, Catholic theology of the body romance novels, we call them. And a mother of 4 kids who, cross their fingers, are going to be quiet upstairs while we do this.
Excellent, Carolyn, thank you. Yeah, we're related. My kids are actually relatively quiet. It's the dogs that are the problem at my house. Rebecca, tell us about yourself. Rebecca Willen is one of our other hostesses. Take it away, Rebecca.
Hello, coming to you from Ann Arbor, Michigan. I work for the Dominican Sisters of Mary up here, and I'm also a freelance editor and writer. I have no children, and I have cats who may invade the visual, although they are generally quiet unless they're complaining at me for food.
All right. Well, thank you, Rebecca. And then last but not least, I'm very excited to introduce the author of the Gospel Time Trekkers series, Sister Marie Grace Dateno. She's a daughter of St. Paul. Sister Marie Grace, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to our viewers this evening?
Hello, I'm very excited to be part of this evening. I love reading fiction, and so this is perfect for me. But I write fiction and other things for kids, but I actually work in our publishing house as an acquiring editor for books for grown-ups, not for kids. But I really enjoyed reading these books, and I'm looking forward to talking about them. I'm talking to you all from Boston, Massachusetts. And there are no children or dogs or cats here. We just hope we have no loud trucks or anything outside. That's the only thing I can think of.
All right, well, excellent. Well, in the event that any of us has to deal with ambient noises, let's put it that way, we will be called upon to be heroes in the faces of our suffering, which is convenient because that is our theme for this evening. We're talking about heroism, what it means to give of yourself sacrificially so that others can do well and be well. And our book selections for this evening reflect that. And also so does our choice of special guests, because Sister Maria Grace writes about some really interesting heroes, lots of fun heroes for kids. I kind of want to start talking about Wrinkle in Time first. That's our YA selection for this month. And I want to start with that one because there's a movie coming out. I believe it's this Thursday is the release date. Anybody can correct me on that if you like. Oh, wait, hold on. I almost forgot. Okay, so viewers, comment live to be entered for a chance to win Full Cycle by Christopher Blunt, which is the adult book selection for this month. And I'm excited to be talking about that. All right. Wind it back in. Let's talk about Wrinkle in Time, which was one of my favorite books when I was a teenager. As an adult, I had a harder time connecting with it, and I guess I'm not quite sure why. Does anybody else want to jump in on that one?
I will.
Okay.
I'd be glad to jump in. I never read this book as a child or a teen. This is the first time I've read it at the ripe old age of 46. So, and I couldn't connect with it, honestly. It's one of those books I've wanted to read for years because people love it. And part of the problem is just fantasy is not my thing in general. So I think right off the bat, that made it tough for me. There were parts I liked and it was well written, but I just had trouble connecting with it too.
Okay. Who else wants to jump in on there?
I really also loved this book when I was young. Not a teenager. I think I was maybe a little bit younger, like the end of grade school. I discovered it. I read it so many times. I loved it. But reading it now, it doesn't really give me the same feeling. But I think that the neat thing about it when I was young was that I don't know. I just how she seemed like she was so not confident about her own abilities, Meg, and so not feeling like things were going well. And then somehow this great adventure happened, and everything like she could rise to the occasion, and even be the one who. Are we allowed to say spoilers on this thing? And
Well,
even
the
be
book
the
has
one
been
who.
around. The book has been around for like what 45 years. We could probably go ahead and spoil it.
So, so her younger brother, who's the genius and everything, but in the end, he can't save himself. He can't do it. I mean, what needs to be done, and she's the one who can rescue him. So I don't know, but I just loved that whole world when I was younger. But it doesn't feel like it aged that well for me at this point.
Yeah, I think what I realized with it is I want more out of it. It's like you almost get the bare bones of a really awesome fantasy novel, but you don't get to go deep enough into it, I feel like. So it's like I want to know more about Aunt Beast and the characters on that planet, and I want to understand more about it and everything that's happening on that planet. And I don't get as much as because it's like you take Narnia and C.S. Lewis's space trilogy and somehow combine them for children. It doesn't quite work for me.
I'm trying to like, as we're talking about this, and like the way Sister said it is that, it didn't age well for us. I kind of think I fall into that category. I'm trying to pinpoint why I, liked it so much when I was a kid. I think Wrinkle in Time, for those, like 3 people in the world who haven't read it yet. Well, 2 now that Carolyn has read it. It's the story of the social misfit named Meg Murray, and her parents are very, very bright. And it's sort of it seems like everybody in the family except the, 2 brothers is sort of set apart by their ability to think at a cognitively advanced level, but not so much connect with other humans on a social level. And her father is missing, and then essentially what happens is she's called on a quest with her brother and this cute boy Calvin to go find her father. And I know everybody else here has been calling it a fantasy. In my mind, it's always been science fiction. Sometimes it's hard to make the distinction between the two because science fiction is where the magic is technology and fantasy is where the technology is magic. So I think since that, flows together so much in A Wrinkle in Time, fantasy, science fiction, I get it. What I think the most powerful moment of heroism for me in this book that even now, I think I actually appreciated more now than I did when I was really, I think, for me also, Sister, like I was saying teenager, it was probably, I was reading it towards the end of grade school. So like 7th, 8th grade, junior high, almost a teenager, early teen. Anyway, that moment went throughout the book. We're hearing Meg complain about her impatience and her rashness to try to do things and fix things and beat people up who are mean, or at least, throw a punch or whatever. And in the end, the way she has to be a hero is by doing what looks like nothing. Does anybody else know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, because I think this is the one thing I really did enjoy about A Wrinkle in Time, and I think I enjoyed this when I read it in high school as well, because I didn't read it until later, is Meg's a lot like me, I'm a lot like Meg, whatever. It's that impulsive, like, I have to fix the problem. Like, I have to protect my little brother. I have to, my dad's in trouble. I got to go rescue him. Like, she always wants to do something. It has to be physical action. And ultimately, you're right, her heroism is something that is very personally hers, very deeply hers, but it's not that outward action that she usually leans towards.
Yeah, and I think that was the moment of self-discovery and heroism for her in that book. Sister or Carolyn, do you want to add anything to that?
Well, one thought I have right now is I hope they don't mess up the movie.
That's right.
I'm sorry. As soon as you try to cast Oprah Winfrey as a guardian angel, we've got problems.
Well, from the trailers, it's hard to tell. But the one thing I picked up on the trailer that I was a little alarmed about was something, or maybe it was a little interview or something. It was like, I feel like they're portraying Meg as this super intelligent girl. But that in the book, she felt not like she was definitely gifted in math, but she wasn't like, that she didn't feel like she was as intelligent as her little brother and her parents. So I felt like that kind of messed up like what I thought was neat about her. Like she was kind of not thinking of herself as anything like them. But if they're going to say that from the beginning that she is, I don't know, I think I would be disappointed with that. But it's hard to tell from the trailer, but it looks really trippy. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm concerned about. I am concerned that it's going to be trippy and not have those moments of coziness, because I haven't figured out which celebrity actress is Mrs. Who, Mrs. Which, Mrs. What's It. I haven't figured that out. But the fact that they have like sparkly space makeup instead of wearing Mrs. Buncombe's sheets, that's like that. As soon as I saw it, like, okay, when I first saw the trailers coming out, I'm like, oh, Wrinkle in Time, I'm gonna love this. And then I saw Oprah Winfrey with silver makeup on, and I just had this moment of, oh no, what are they doing? What are they doing to my book?
The charm of Wrinkle in Time is that the characters are ordinary, especially Meg. She's so ordinary and she's so relatable. But
even though she's brilliant, she's so ordinary that she doesn't think she's brilliant.
Yeah, well, she was really only brilliant at math. She didn't do well in school for the rest of her classes. So I feel like, but she probably was definitely above average. But because of all her other social difficulties, she didn't just thrive well in school except for math.
Right. That's a very good point, sister. So yeah, I'll probably go see it. I might hold off until it's at the second run theater, just to save money. It's really cheap. It's great. Carolyn, did you have anything you wanted to add, or did you want to start talking about? I want to save Full Cycle for last, since that's our giveaway. So people comment.
I think,
Carolyn, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, this is probably a good segue, because one of the things that struck me about Meg's heroism is the same thing that you find in The Castle in the Attic, is that the person who's called on to do the heroic thing doesn't feel qualified necessarily. They don't feel like they're the best person to do the job, or that they have all the skills, but they have the courage and the faith to go ahead and do it anyway. And I think you see that in both books.
Yeah, I see that. Who else wants to jump in on Castle in the Attic? Oh, you know what, Rebecca? I know you texted me earlier that you have a hard copy of Castle in the Attic. Can you give us like the 25-word synopsis of Castle in the Attic?
This is one of my favorites. I love going back to childhood books and reading them as an adult and realizing just why they were so good. So Castle in the Attic is essentially the story of a middle school boy who is given a very large toy castle, very nice toy castle, by his governess, who is going to be leaving, or nanny. Anyway, and in the castle, unbeknownst to him, is a knight who has been turned miniature. And the long and the short of it is, our young hero ends up going into this knight's world and saving the land, becoming a squire, and not taking over the world, saving the country. And the two, he has the twin challenges of saving the country and also fixing the problem that he created when he doesn't want his nanny to leave and turns her miniature. Bad idea. Don't do that to your nanny. That was a rather scattered synopsis, but
no, it's a nutshell. It's good.
I'm really bad at synopses.
Yeah, and so yeah, every author you write with, you can now have great sympathy for them, because we all also hate synopses. Yeah. Trust me, we all hate them. Anyway, back to Castle in the Attic. I had never read this book. I had never heard of it. I wonder, I had a hard time getting into Castle in the Attic because maybe and I can't quite pinpoint why. I had a hard time relating to oh gosh, maybe this makes me a bad person. I had a hard time relating to a boy who didn't want his nanny to go away and would do something that vicious to her. It didn't endear him to me. Am I the only one? I'm probably the only one. You are all good people.
I was shocked when it happened. When I was like, he's not really going to do that. Oh my goodness, he did it. I couldn't believe it.
I think what makes it interesting too, though, is that here's a hero who really screwed up royally previously. It doesn't prevent him from being heroic. You know, he can make a really terrible mistake and he can still go back and do the right thing.
Okay, that's a good way to look at it, Carolyn. I appreciate it. But yeah, Sister Maria Grace, that's the exact same feel. He's not going to do this. He's not that much of a spoiled brat. Oh my goodness, he's a spoiled brat.
I don't know if I thought of him as a spoiled brat, but like,
no, I
just couldn't believe that he would be that determined and like follow through on his threat. I don't know. I never had read this book either, but I enjoyed it. I really did. That part was like, I was like, oh no, don't do it. And then he did it. But even though his heroism is kind of forced on him, like, because he's done this, now the only way to fix it is for him to go through and also risk himself. And when he hesitates at doing it, he realizes this is why he should not have done that to his nanny, why it was such a terrible thing. Like that helps him realize how bad it was. And but he goes through and does what he knows is right and is able to succeed. I liked it. I thought it was fun. But I don't know. I didn't get the next one out of the library. That's kind of how I judge how well I like the book, if I desperately want to read the next one or not. Have you did you read all the rest of the series?
Yeah, I think I only knew about a second one, a sequel, The Battle in the Attic.
Oh, maybe that's all there is.
I don't know if this, I don't know if I've ever looked to see if there were more. I did like The Battle in the Attic. It's a little darker because he's a couple years older, and it takes place both in the real world and in Sir Simon's world, and they face a much darker enemy. But it is very good. I enjoyed it as a kid. I haven't read it again as an adult. But the thing that I love about The Castle in the Attic, and I think is also one of the interesting things about Wrinkle in Time, you can say it about Full Cycle as well, is that ultimately the heroism stems from you being who you are. And for, what's his name? Good heavens, William. For William, it's, it's his own skills, it's his tumbling, his gymnastics, his music, but ultimately it's his own character, his personality that helps him be able to defeat the enemy.
Yeah, Carolyn, what did you have anything you wanted to add about Castle in the Attic?
No, I enjoyed this. I had not read it previously either, but I enjoyed it. The one thing I kept coming back to is comparing it to The Indian in the Cupboard, because the premise was similar in so many ways. So I kept trying to compare, and I haven't read that one for a while either, but no, I enjoyed it. And I see what Rebecca's saying about how it's, and again, it's like the heroism is coming from who you are. You don't have to be somebody else to be a hero. You have to be who you are called to be.
Yeah, I see that. And like the more, as we're talking about that, that's why I love doing Sabbath Rest Book Talk, because as we're talking, I learn something new about each book we always talk about. And I think the one thing that I'm seeing, and it's probably stared everybody else in the face and I'm just too dull to have seen it, is that the theme that keeps running between these three books is that heroism is we become heroes when we face the one thing that is inherently most difficult for us, just inherently to our characters. Like the thing that made Meg a hero was that she was able to sit still and just love. The thing that made William a hero was that he was able to let go of his fears of losing Mrs. I can't remember her name. Thank you, her. And his fear of failing his gymnastics tumble run. And then that kind of leads us right into Full Cycle. is that Full Cycle is the story of a father and a son who the father used to be a cyclist, like a cycling racer. Sorry, Christopher, if I'm butchering all these cycling terms. Sports and I were like not friends. Even, you know, it's just the way it goes. Anyway, so the father and the son, the father gave up cycling so that he could fully throw himself into being a father, which is heroic in and of itself, because cycling used to be a really big part of his life, biking races. And then the son, he has a leg length discrepancy, which personally, I actually have a leg length discrepancy. So to have found a hero in a book who has like this bizarre problem that nobody else that I know has was kind of cool. Like, oh, I know what he's going through. Yeah, I have to go get a lift in my shoe too. Mine's not nearly as bad as the boy in this story, but the son wants to excel in a sport, and he decides that he wants to try cycling. He wants to do the Seattle to Portland ride in spite of all of the challenges he faces. And he's got this interesting story in that the reason he has a leg length discrepancy is because he climbed a tree when he was younger, and he was terribly injured in the fall. And he is living with the guilt of that because at the time he didn't have health. He wasn't on his parents' health insurance. So he knows that because of his poor judgment, he has cost his family money, and he's sort of like carrying this guilt around. And meanwhile, the father is also carrying this guilt around of having sort of, I hate to use the phrase, is let himself go the right phrase?
Yeah.
Okay. He's kind of let himself go. He's sort of like getting by on doing the bare minimum in everything in his life, in his exercise, and in his parenting in a little bit of a way too, because, you know, he likes sports, but he has a son who is kind of left out of most, if not all, sports. And I've often read, and I wish there were more about that sports wound for men. I think women get it a little bit too. Like I'm so uncoordinated, and I like was never really part of a team, so I never experienced that. But from what I understand, that's even a harder thing for guys to have gone through, because, you know, in our culture, you're supposed to be in sports and you're supposed to be good in sports. And that is, you know, a lifelong pain for a lot of men who, you know, grew up not able to, you know, hit a home run at, you know, Little League or what, I don't know, throw out the first pitch at soccer. I don't know, whatever sports is, who, you know, weren't able to succeed in sports in the way our culture considers success. So this is what, you know, I've read is that the kind of story, Full Cycle is the kind of story where it's a sports quest. And what the heroism in the end throughout the story is, again, that facing of fears. What if I can't do it? What if I fail? I don't know. Okay, I blabbed too much. I've got to let you ladies talk. Who wants to talk about Full Cycle next? Jump in.
I just mentioned that I think what's unique among these three books with Full Cycle is that the hero doesn't have to do it alone. Yeah.
Yeah.
In this case, it's actually them working together that enables them to triumph. And that's not the case in the other books. And I thought that was interesting too, because the hero doesn't have to be heroic by himself.
And the other thing you see in this book as well is you see some failures before you get to really succeeding. Ultimately, you see the failures. You see the failure of the kid's organ recital, a lot of failure of communication between father and son, and some learning curves on that. But you see it's a long, I think possibly because it's just a longer journey. But you see that the heroism comes after learning through the failures as well.
Yeah, and that really does touch on how easy it is for us to, like, I'm dealing with this in my writing life right now, that, you know, I failed so often, how can I get up and go on? And they really show us, these two characters show us how to do that. And it's in a way that a nonfiction book never could. Sister Maria, did you want to chime in on Full Cycle?
Yeah, I was I really, by the end of the book, I really enjoyed it a lot. I had a little bit of a hard time getting into it, but by the end of it, I really liked. I'm terribly not an athletic person either at all. I never did any sports in my life. So for a book to like make me feel like, oh, that would be neat. I wish I could go out and go bicycling. That's pretty good because I don't really like it. But I found it a little bit difficult to get into the kid, Alex. I think most of the fiction I read is kid fiction. And so I'm used to the child really seeming like they're their age, but I felt like it was a little bit hard to believe that he was. I don't know. A few times I came out of my, what do they call it, the suspension of disbelief, and I was like, no, that's not right. A kid wouldn't say that, or he wouldn't do that, or this. I don't know that, like, even the music part, like that's not what a music rehearsal would be like. The director wouldn't have done that, whatever. But once I got into it, and then I started to see the father struggling. That's the part I like, looking at the heroism of the father, because it's everyday heroism that all parents have to do. And as religious, this is what we see in married couples and parents especially, that their life that requires that giving of themselves, that's where they get their holiness. And we can circumvent it, and we have to make sure we don't, because we don't have kids or that kind of married relationship where you have to give in that kind of heroic way. So I liked seeing the father get himself, along with the encouragement of his wife, get himself to be the heroic self-giving that he needed to be to be a good father to his son. So I like that.
Okay, speaking about marriage, sister, I have to say, like, one of my favorite scenes in this book. I want to go back if we're running out of time, Drat. Anyway, quick favorite scene of this book is when his wife was telling him about, what did you say when you asked me to marry you? And he had Peter said Robert. Okay, the dad. He had the engagement ring on him for, I think it was a 200-mile bicycle ride. And he, finished the ride and said, I have carried this for you for 200 miles and I will carry anything for you. And that's what she asked him. Well, now that you mentioned it, it's time for you to step up and be a better dad. I thought that was really awesome.
Yeah.
But I just really quickly again also about the what's it called? I'm hearing like the not kid-like behavior out of Alex. The way I saw it, I felt it was like clues, like he's carrying a heavier burden than just having, 2 inches difference between his legs. But I thought those were like clues dropped throughout. Mm-hmm. And then when they got to the scene of him hearing his parents talk about that this was going to cost them a lot of money, and like, oh, that's why he's acting like he's got the whole world on his shoulders. That's why he's never asking for anything that would cost money. That's why he's trying not to let his shoes, get used up quickly or whatever. So yeah, I really liked, I think of all of the books that we read this month, that was kind of my favorite. Anybody else have a favorite from this month before I start grilling Sister Maria Grace about her work? Grilling.
Castle in the Attic has always been one that I loved, and it was fun to go back to. So I think it's probably my favorite, although I enjoyed Full Cycle. Not necessarily more than I was expecting to, but I enjoyed it a lot.
All right, awesome. How about you, Carolyn?
Yeah, me too. I think Full Cycle is my favorite among these. But I like the Castle in the Attic too. Wrinkle in Time. I'd heard so much I expected something more for it. I think if I had read it as a child, it would have been different. But
okay, yeah, losing that nostalgia thing might have made an impact. How about you, Sister Maria Grace?
I think Castle in the Attic was probably my favorite, and after that, Full Cycle.
All right, awesome. So all of you people who are watching, keep in mind one of our favorite almost across the board here, books, wasn't by an indie publisher. So just because it's not from a big house doesn't mean it's not big fun and good reads. So that said, I have some questions for Sister Maria Grace this evening, with tonight's focus being heroism. We wanted to invite you, Sister, to join our conversation, especially because of your Gospel Time Trekker series. Can you tell us briefly about your books and the heroes in those books?
These books are about 3 siblings that go back in time to the time of Jesus and meet people from the gospel stories and have adventures. And when they come home at the end of each book, they always end up going to Mass on Sunday, and something clicks that they get because of what they've learned. They're for young readers, like 6 to 9 years old, very young chapter books.
Very clever. Excellent. Now, how did you get the idea to write about these heroes in this time trekking way? And I'm especially intrigued by the idea of how you came up with the idea of it all resolving during their attendance at Sunday Mass.
Well, the original idea came by reading some of the Magic Treehouse books, because this is basically Catholic ripoff of Magic Treehouse.
It's not a ripoff; it's inspiration. Come on, sister.
Well, that's where I got the idea, because Jack and Annie go back to every single time in history that you can think of, except first century Palestine at the time of Jesus. And so when I read a couple of those, I thought that would be a great way to tell the gospel stories. So, and also, I'm inspired by all of the kids' books I've read that deal with siblings, because I love reading. I always have when I was little, I always loved reading books about groups of siblings. So this is about Caleb, who's 9, and then his older sister, Hannah, and younger brother, Noah. But Caleb is the main character, and he's the one telling the story. It's written in first person, which seems to be the only way I can write fiction from my experience. I don't know how I got the idea of the Mass, except that I also write other catechetical stuff for kids, so I wanted to help kids understand better. And it's really based on the liturgical year. It's actually liturgically accurate according to year B. The Gospels that they hear and the things that happen at Mass on the feast days is all actually accurate for the B cycle of the liturgical year.
Oh, neat. So just in case I happen to have any extended family members watching this at some point, would this make you say your books make a good first Eucharist gift, perhaps? Wink, wink, yes. Considering I have a kid making first Eucharist this year.
Yes, they really are perfect for that. Yes.
Okay, excellent. How good to know, just out of curiosity. Anyway, so why do you think it's important for children, especially this age group, these early chapter book readers, to read stories about heroism?
Well, this is what kids like to read about. Like from the time I was young, there needs to be always in a story there is some kind of moment of excitement and somebody doing something that makes you get excited about reading it. So in these books, the 3 siblings from our time that go back, they usually end up in some moment of scariness or danger. And it was hard because you can't make it too scary or too dangerous because they're 6 to 9-year-olds reading the book. But some kind of, like in the first book, Shepherds to the Rescue, they're with the shepherds, and the wolves come, and they have to protect the sheep. And so Caleb is terrified, but he is able to do what he has to do to help protect the sheep. But more in this one, he sees the little shepherd boy that they've met is the real hero, and he is absolutely determined none of his sheep will get injured by or eaten by the wolf.
Awesome. And it's great. Yeah. It's great to see, to give kids that opportunity to put themselves in the shoes of what it would like to be like to have to put yourself on the line like that. Sister, where can our viewers find more about you and your work?
I'm not of all the Daughters of St. Paul, I'm probably one of the least ones online, but on our website, pauline.org, PAULINE, pauline.org/Gospel Time Trekkers is my page with some more information about the books and little video interviews and stuff like that. You can get the books on our web store or Amazon or your local Catholic bookstore.
Yes, please. If you've got a local Catholic bookstore, go out and patronize them because they are small business warriors and we love them. Sister Maria Grace, thank you so much for coming out and talking to us tonight. Before we sign off, I have an announcement next month. We're actually not going to be doing this on the first Sunday. We're going to be doing this on the second Sunday because a lot of us, celebrate Easter. So we're going to be, eating ham and pineapple filling at my house. You're all invited. Not really. That would be creepy. But so that's April 1st, April 8th, 7 p.m. We are actually not going to be airing live. We're going to be taping it ahead of time because we're accommodating very special guest Joseph Pierce, author of Race with the Devil, Poems Catholics Should Know, and a host of The Quest for Shakespeare on EWTN, and all sorts of wonderful shows about literature and the value of literature. So really close to the heart of our Sabbath Rest Book Talk mission here. So I'm really excited. Do tune in. Go to my website, ErinMcColeCupp.com, to sign up for the reminders to check out our link. I'll have the link to each Sabbath Rest Book Talk mailed conveniently and directly to your mailbox. And there we go. We've got one last thing to do before we sign off. As usual, almost 10 minutes late. Looks like our big winner for the giveaway of Full Cycle is Teresa Linden. Woohoo! Longtime friend of Sabbath Rest Book Talk. Congratulations, Teresa. We will be in touch and help you connect with Christopher Blunt to get your copy. I think that's it for Sabbath Rest Book Talk this evening. Have a great month. We'll see you in April. God bless. Take care. Potato chip, potato chip. Bye-bye. Everybody say bye.
Bye.